Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. All right, today's podcast is about how to build an AI proof career. Just to give you guys a brief background as to why we are having this discussion. On the 26th of May, Samyak had written an article in Inc. 42, if I remember the name of the portal correctly, about this very subject. He had sent it across to me and I read it and I enjoyed this. And I told Samyak, I think we should have a conversation about this in a longer format because this is something that every single nation has to talk about, whether we like it or not. And Samyak was nice enough to agree. So, Samyak, kya haal hai? How are you doing?
All good. How are you?
Yeah. So before people don't know about you, Samyak is the founder of Workverse and many other things. क्या क्या तूने किया है? बता जरा. आजकल तेरा क्या हर टाइम तू नई चीज कर लेता है तो मेरे को थोड़ा
In
कैचअप
fact,
करना मुश्किल होता है.
this is the longest standing thing I've been doing since 2017. I mean, side may have done things like, in fact, that's how I met you, Operation Black Dot, where
Hmm.
we enabled college going youth to vote. I have ran a mentoring program that enables professionals like us to mentor youth from underserved communities. I also run a foundation called Nimaya, which upskills women hailing from various circumstantial and economic barriers to get access to aspirational jobs. But really, my sole project, which is essentially my company, is Workverse, where our mission is to upgrade human intelligence so that it remains relevant and in control in a time where artificial intelligence is invading almost every sphere of life, in particular the workplace.
So in artificial intelligence, right, there are two camps. Now, broadly, I mean, I'm being facetious here, but broadly, there are two camps. One is, a very bullish camp
Hmm.
that sees artificial intelligence to being the best thing post I don't know, sliced bread. And the
Hmm.
other camp is like this doomsday camp where, oh my god, we're all gonna die. I mean, the doomsday camp, I think the closest face to the doomsday camp would be Elon Musk, the
Hmm.
most famous doomsday artificial intelligence doomsday guy.
Hmm.
And I'm not
Hmm.
in the doomsday camp, but I'm also not, I find myself kind of out of both camps. I think we should be skeptical of many claims that the doomsdayers make about artificial intelligence, but at the
Hmm.
same time, we should not dismiss them like the ones, let's say, Neil deGrasse Tyson just say, "Oh, I'll pull the plug." Now, that's a very facetious answer too, and you expect better from a person like Neil deGrasse Tyson. So, where do you stand in this entire? Which camp are you in?
So, I'm in neither camp because there is a more fundamental and philosophical conversation that we need to have first in order for your listeners to truly understand, your listeners or viewers to truly understand not which camp, but which perspective I'm coming from. So let's kind of, date back to 1980s when the computer became prevalent, and the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi gave a big push to bring computers into public sector enterprises as well as private organizations. And often a lot of people kind of viewed the computer as a threat. कि computer आएगा तो नौकरी चली जाएगी, and computer was seen as an enemy. And in fact, my grandfather once told me that I think it was one of the public sector banks where they actually took a computer and burnt it as a mark of protest. And there was this entire generation that refused to embrace the computer as a enhancer of productivity, enhancer of human capability, and therefore were not in sync with the times of 2000, where it became an increasingly digitized world. So where I agree to one camp is to say that completely to denounce AI either as not a threat or to get scared of it as a threat. Both are wrong, right? Because AI has its advantages. What is AI? Let's just break it down, right? You're not a techie, I'm not a techie, so let's talk in common language. All what AI is saying is that what the creators of AI, or what the first principle of AI is, it can compute data much faster than an average human mind. It can draw connections between data points far more precisely, and it can discover patterns that an average human probably cannot. And these are extremely valuable functions that take away a lot of rote and a lot of time consuming, energy consuming functions of the human mind, and let the AI do it, right? So I cannot say that I'm in any camp when it comes to that, because AI has its value. But the philosophical part, which is where the dangerous part is, I believe that the earth exists to serve the cause of natural beings, which is human beings, animals, the nature ecosystem. So whatever technology that we create, whatever that we build, has to serve natural beings. Now, coming back to the computer, the way the device was constructed, the way its code is constructed, it thought to within the limitation of what it was programmed to think. So a Google Doc, or sorry, a MS Word, for example, will never tell you what to write. But Google Doc today, before you complete the sentence, is adding 5 words for you. So the difference between the computer and the AI is now the AI can eventually think for itself and probably think better than you, more faster than you, precise than you. Therefore, it can tempt capitalists to replace you with AI. And the more philosophical part is, does the earth, does the world, do the systems exist for a few humans or all humans? If we say that it must exist to serve the needs, which is food, clothing, shelter, security, sanity, health, and so on, for all beings, then AI becomes dangerous. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to be slightly brash here. It's a bunch of few, techno geeks, capitalists, and excited politicians across the world, which are, and including in our country, in fact, I must say, which are literally doing Atiti Devo Bhava to the robot to come into your own house, take your job, and therefore take your space, without we thinking about what do we do about the people that are already in the house, which is millions of unemployed youth, millions of population that are at risk of being mentally manipulated by AI algorithms that are already infested our social media. So that's where I stand.
Okay, but then what do you tell people that I think this has been said every single time when something new happens. Let's say when the motor vehicle was invented, people who owned horse carts were saying we will run out of jobs, where eventually jobs are created in a new field. Similarly, when computers came, old technologies were replaced. Now that AI is here, that is going to be happening to the same process. That the fear of joblessness or jobless growth is unwarranted. How do you deal with that argument?
So let's break this down, right? So the horse cart was replaced by a car, but in both cases there was a human being that was riding it. There was a man or woman riding a horse cart, man or woman driving a car. But where the horse car driver was not wrong, just a bit too before his time, now you have automated cars. So you have completely eliminated the human from the process of driving, correct? So my problem is there that now this time we have crossed that boundary. So Yuval Harari in his book 21 Lessons for 21st Century says this, and I'm saying the summary of what he said, not exactly quoting him. But this time we have crossed the line because we have created something that will have its own sentience, and we're almost there. Now, something which has its own sentience is essentially a different species itself. And that species is more powerful, both intellectually and eventually when you give it physical form physically than the human being. So, what we must have done to the species that predated us, we predated on species that predated us, we are going to be predated on. Because this new thing that you've created has its own sentience. And when singularity is achieved, which is when machine will be able to think and compute and like man, which is not far away, was screwed.
Uh, uh, as far as I'm concerned, not every job that technology has created has been, necessarily in the situation. Like, I mean, to think about it, even simple things like lifting goods, right? Previously,
Hmm.
we needed 100 human beings to lift goods physically
Correct.
from point A
Correct.
to point B.
Correct.
We created systems where instead of 100 human beings being involved, we just needed 10
Correct.
human beings to lift the same goods. So, I mean, we still eliminated 90 human beings from that job, but there was no hue and cry there, right?
Now, okay, so let's again go in nuances. Now, yes, 100 human beings were employed to lift a boulder, but now you have a crane. But, Kushal, those 100 human beings could use their physical labor somewhere else. If let's assume that physical labor is all those 100 human beings could do, you have replaced those 100 beings with a crane to pick up a boulder and place it, right? But those 100 beings still can be used for construction in a construction site as they are, because right now we don't have robots making buildings as of now. But the problem is that the 100 human beings that one, so let me give you a live example. Okay, so we actually place freshers, well-trained freshers into companies, and we'll get into what I do in a bit. But I'll tell you something that happened with one of my client companies, and I disagree with what the client did from a humanity perspective, but I understand why he did it as a business person. So he employed 25 accountants. Okay, now those guys have toiled all their life and studied accounting. 25 CAs, let me change. 25 CAs was employed because it's a very large financial firm that we work with, and 25 CAs were replaced because that one AI software could do everything that those 25 CAs could do, and they only retained one guy who was a smart communicator, smart problem solver, could to take decisions, because that is something that yet AI cannot do. And we'll get to that part in a second, which is the whole theme of this conversation. But these 24 people have toiled their entire life to become a CA, and now they are replaced. While it is very ideal to say reskill, upskill, it's not actually possible. So you have 24 people who hopefully will find jobs as CA somewhere else, or they have nothing to do.
Yeah, I understand the concern, and I'm actually sympathetic to it in many ways also. But I think this is the running story of humanity. Sometimes you just what has changed in this technology boom that we are facing right now is, let's say when I was in college, you would have a degree, you would have
Yeah,
maximum one or two skills, and you could bet your bottom dollar that
yeah,
you're gonna have a stable life.
yeah,
Today what has happened is the market dynamics change so fast that you have to reskill yourself every half a decade, like in every 5 years you need to learn a new skill. So you're constantly learning all the time, and you're constantly trying to figure out where the new market demand is. It's not like there are no jobs available in the market. Point number 2 is that I know people are talking about the population on earth is increasing. Honestly, it's only increasing for a while. Like as of now, the predictions of India are after 2050, all models of India are predicting only one thing: India's population is going to drop. In fact, what India needs to be worried about is after 30 years going to have a giant explosion of senior citizens. And where are we going to what are we going to do with those senior citizens? The healthcare costs are going to hit the roof if we do not make our economy bigger and stronger, and we do not become a richer society. And which is why I liked your recommendations, is because what are we going to do with this situation? We right now we are 20, our average age is like 28 ish, around that. Our average age by 2050, which is just 25 years, 26 years down the line, is going to be more than 35. What are we going to do then? Our birth rates are dropping.
I mean, fertility rates are also declining
Yeah,
because of lifestyle and health issues.
yeah,
Um, Look, so let's just do one part first, and I would like to bring this to your attention because yours is one of the few podcasts where we can speak in a relaxed way, and we're
yeah, yeah.
not in that 30-second, 60-second, trending conversation that we need to have. See, you say that while population growth will have a flat curve in India and many parts of the world, you are still talking in billions of people, right? So, yes, new jobs will be created, but for every 10 jobs lost, I would say two jobs will be created. Why? Because where are these other eight going? They are going because now the human brain is no longer required. So when you spoke about this very interesting point, right, where you said that you thought you went to college, you have a degree, you speak decent English, you are mildly smart and well groomed, you will reach somewhere in life. That entire equation has been disrupted. Um, because I repeat, many tasks that we have been trained for from our childhood, many thought processes that enabled us to succeed at work are automated, right? So new jobs will be created, but not in the same number. So that quantitative problem will remain. Is there a solution? Absolutely not. Will AI be stopped or should it be stopped? Absolutely not. So then the question comes that how can you upgrade human intelligence so that we humans remain relevant and in control of a world where you have this new species? So it is not either or, it is not even and, it is above and below. And how do we keep humans above? That's the conversation that we need to have and the world needs to have.
All right, then let's assume as a baseline what you're saying is real, and we are in a situation where we are. So, in your article, you talk about four specific skills, right? You
Yeah,
say you need four skills that are needed to make sure that you remain relevant in this kind of a
yeah.
market. And the underlying assumption is the politicians and the policymakers are going to do what they're going to do that you're scared of. So in that case, what are you going to do? So now take your time and let us go through all of them one
Yeah,
by one. So take your time.
yeah, yeah. So, but let's first look at the summary of these four skills, right? What am I saying? I am saying that it is time to be human again. In many ways, our education system has robotized us. तुम ये पढ़ो, इसको रट्टा लगाओ, तुम, everybody has seen Three Idiots. So everybody, the education system was geared towards making you as a Chatur Ramalingam. But now whatever Chatur knows, Chat GPT knows. Whatever Chatur can do, Chat GPT can do. So in simple terms, it is now imperative to become a Rancho. Who was Rancho, right? Rancho was a free flowing, very intelligent, very, very deep, but free flowing, intuitive, jugadu human who's also a charmer. So, what Rancho can do as of now will not be automated for a long time to come. Maybe it can happen in one lab, but it is not going to be available. So I don't think that SMEs and startups and small companies will replace all their employees with bots sitting on desks. Which means, yes, you're right, humans will be required, but humans of a different kind. So just to summarize before we get into it, we will need more ranchos than chaturs. Now, what does a rancho mean? Now let's start with the first thing, jugaad. Jugaad is the most natural skill that we humans have had since birth. It's not even taught to us. Now, what does jugaad mean, right? An untrained, unconditioned mind has no rules. You show it an objective, you give it a motivator, or you give it a fear. Typically, it will figure it out. Which is why and which is how we have come from Flintstones to nuclear bombs. We have found smart, creative solutions to whatever problem that we have, right? So the idea is to decondition yourself, to uncondition yourself. Now let me take another example. Who are the most successful professionals? And I'm going to say names that could be controversial, but I think in this context they make more sense. You look at Dhirubhai Ambani, you look at Gautam Adani, you look at Steve Jobs. These are all people who didn't have a degree, they were dropouts. Their jugaad, which is creative problem solving or finding ways or creating ways where none exist, is what got them forward. So that is jugaad. And that is something that now all employers expect their freshers to mid level to senior management to be able to do. Because I repeat, whatever is predictable and certain will be done by a bot. But whatever is uncertain, let's go further with an example. Let's take this accountant example that I took. Let's look at the 24 who were fired and the one who remained. And I know I have worked with the 24 who were fired and I have worked with the one who remained. Now, the one who remained, looking at cash flow, can say आप अभी आपके expenses इस तरह reallocate कर दो ताकि आपका profit high दिखे. Nothing illegal, it's just creative accounting. Now that a bot will not be able to do. Or he has found hacks within the ambit of law to solve problems for clients. But the other 24 only sticking to generally acceptable accounting principles, not willing to take calculated risks to kind of circumvent whatever the complication is. They lost the job because that those recommendations will be given by a bot. But this ability to think beyond set rules, set instructions is what saved this one guy the job. So that's jugaad. That's the first skill that I think is very important and will give you the edge over automation and bots at the workplace. The second skill is storytelling, right? And I say storytelling very particularly and not communication for a very specific reason. Is, see, if you see I'm sure you or all your viewers have interacted with bots, chat bots now. They speak very good English. They give very precise answers also nowadays. So models are trained well. But can they know that Kushal is an extremely deep thinker? He is extremely vocal about certain issues. So on his birthday, I would like to gift him a certain kind of book that a bot will not be able to think. Bot will say, okay, if I have to gift, Kushal is X. I don't know your age actually. I'm going to take the liberty to say you're 40. Don't
I'm
don't don't shut me.
43. I might be
Okay,
3 years
I was not.
younger.
So you look younger. So the bot will say Kushal is 40. He's a male. Maybe let's send him a bottle of wine. But a storyteller will have the understanding of you at a human level. And the reason I said gift is because gift is part of charming and communication. Or mm, if a human has to charm you into getting you to buy something, the same logic will apply, where the right keywords and the right analogies and the right emotions will be used based on the human's knowledge about you, the human's perception and feeling about you, which a code will not have for a very long time to come. That's one aspect of storytelling. Another aspect is, sorry, it's raining in Bombay, so half of Bombay is sick. Anyways, so so the other aspect of storytelling is, how do you create a sensory experience for your audience of your message, so that you can make them visualize themselves in the message that you are saying. A very famous example would be, because we recently just exited elections, is look at our politicians. They make the janta feel, imagine the benefits they would get if they voted for so and so. A bot cannot do that as of now, because the ability to storytell is a function of your facial features, your body language, based on who you are talking to, what you tell them, based on what they want to hear, based on what their motivators are, based on what you want out of them. So all those combinations only a human can do very well, and has been doing, and we need to learn that. So I repeat, storytelling is not communication, because we often refer to communication as knowing good English, speaking the right words, being very grammatically correct. But that is something that a bot can do. But that cream on the cake, which is the right keywords, the right analogies, creating a sensory experience through your words, emotions, and body language, is something that a human can only do, which gives us the edge in the world of work. If you see, if your listeners and viewers see all around them in their office, some of the most successful people who get promoted the fastest, who get recognized the most, they may not be the most thorough people, they may not be the most regular people. By regular I mean regular at clock in clock out, being very diligent. They are essentially charmers. They know how to get their way around with words, and that is something that everybody will have to become. That's the second one. Now the third one, very hard to explain, but I will try to do my best. Hard to explain because so the third thing that I was going to say is intuitive decision making, or intuition. We often, when we hear the word intuition, we refer to it as some magical, messages from the magical realm, messages from the abstract realm. No, intuition is basically our subconscious is obviously computing a lot of information from the environment around us, and and it's computing it quite fast, and it's computing it without biases that our conscious has, or without emotions that our conscious brings in as a filter when we are perceiving information. Intuition is essentially a message that comes from a part of the brain that is relying on pure, unbiased, unemotional perception, and perception from all sides and all inputs, and it is telling us something. For example, let's say you're in a meeting, and everything about a man or woman that you're meeting seems correct. So bot will say good English, a robotic mindset will say speaks good English, good credentials, dressed well, good body language, explained the proposal very well. Let's go ahead. But a human will notice one thing subconsciously that might say, oh, ये ना शायद ट्रस्ट नहीं कर सकते इसको, ये कुछ छुपा रहा है क्योंकि वो आंख ना उसकी उधर उधर जा रही है. Something very subtle which we can pick, and our intuition will tell us, yeah, may not be fully trustworthy, delve deeper. So we need to listen to that inner voice more intently and more deeply, because that is again an asset that we have, because the inner voice is not a based on objective analysis of information. It is based on pure perception, which is somewhere a combination of, just our ability to absorb energy, understand energy, convert energy to a particular thought or feeling, or inference that we may have. That is something that a bot cannot do. So intuitive decision making, again, in fact, I was listening to Jeff Bezos, his talk, when he came to India last, and he says it, in no lesser words, that my best and highest quality decisions are come from my heart and my gut. And he says this in exact words. So what does heart and gut mean? It's your intuition, and that is something that I think is also irreplaceable, like Jugad and storytelling. And the final thing, and is entrepreneurial mindset, right? Uh, the ability to an entrepreneurial mindset, let me just clarify, is not saying be an entrepreneur. An entrepreneurial mindset is the mindset that focuses on growth, comes from a space of hunger and imagination, and wanting to create something better than what is, or wanting to grow greater than or more than what we are. That mindset, which is, I would call it actually a fire in the belly, is what will keep pushing us forward, and leading us to be able to deliver the next most innovative idea, whether we're an employee or a business person or whatever that we are. Again, a bot will not have an entrepreneurial spirit. A bot has no motivation of money, significance, or creating something valuable for the world, as of now at least. But we do. And that is again something that we need to really hone, and it can be honed. In fact, all four of those things that I just spoke about can be honed. They are all innate in us. I mean, intuition is innate in us. Entrepreneurial spirit is actually, again, very innate to humanity, which is why we came from living in caves to building the Burj Al Arab. We have storytelling. I mean, storytelling is the most primal form of communication. Jugad again is so innate to human being, like I said. So to summarize, before I give it back to you to questions, is these four skills, what do they represent essentially? Because there are three, four more, like critical thinking, collaboration, first principles thinking as well. All of these skills that also the World Economic Forum has put in its future of job reports as must-have skills for jobs 2024 and onwards. These are all basically saying be yourself, be human, decondition yourself to what you have been taught, and while use it as a foundation, because you do need foundation knowledge, don't be limited by it. And that's all one has to do to have the edge over a bot.
So I actually wanted to add something over here. Is my experience of working with Chat GPT 4. So it's I you know I have just kept a subscription of Chat GPT 4 to see how it works, to
Hmm.
understand what it does. So I'll give you a story. So a friend of mine, he's doing his law degree, and
Hmm.
he was telling me, "Yaar, ye Chat GPT 4 ko use karna hai. I need to write
Hmm.
something, or something related to his submission." And he tried to use Chat GPT 4, and he thought मैं Chat GPT को बोलूंगा और वो मेरे को लिख के दे देगा. To his utter
Hmm.
shock, Chat GPT 4 तो कुछ लिख के दे नहीं रहा था. वो तो
Hmm.
200-300 वर्ड का ही आउटपुट कर रहा था. So
Hmm.
then I had to sit down and explain to my friend that the Chat GPT 4 is not going to write anything for you
Hmm.
until you tell it in a very precise manner. So even to get 800 to 900 words out of Chat GPT 4,
Hmm.
the paid version, I'm not even talking
Hmm.
about
Yeah,
the unpaid version, the paid version, you need to give it an input of at least 300 to 400 words.
करेक्ट. और वो इनपुट डालने के लिए तो अक्ल चाहिए ना, उसको
हाँ.
कंटेक्चुअलाइज
So
करने के लिए तो अक्ल चाहिए.
so my point was that, listen, Chat GPT 4, all it is doing, it is just a glorified Grammarly. That's all it is.
Maybe it
It
adds a little two bits of its own,
Yeah.
sure, but that's
Yeah,
it.
but beyond that, you so I'll give you multiple examples. You cannot trust the citations ChatGPT 4 gives, right? Let's say
Yeah.
you tell ChatGPT 4 to write something on a political issue, and you tell it, so um
Let
you
let me
tell
help
it.
you. Let me help you with an example, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Until you come up with a political example.
No,
So
I was just gonna tell you about something related to, let's say, you know, a cyclone happened over there,
hmm,
and give us citations for this. It's not necessary the citations Chat GPT-4 is going to give you a real, and especially you can't rely on site Chat GPT-4 when you're talking about sociology or social science or
yeah.
any hard science. You cannot rely on it.
So we did a very interesting experiment in my company, and very out of the park. Just to kind of give you a sense of what the edge humans have in the workplace over a bot. Right? It's a very out of the park example. So we say the problem we give an AI that we were experimenting with, saying we are at Carter Road, Bandra. So I know you have listeners across the world. So to give everybody context, it's a road. On the right is the ocean. On the left there are buildings, and Carter Road is one of the most busy roads in Bombay, like a marine drive. So you can imagine a marine drive. So we asked the bot saying, "I am stuck in Carter Road. There's a lot of traffic jam, and I need to reach Nariman Point in the next 30 minutes. What can I do?" So the AI took satellite data of traffic from across Bombay, and the closest it came to was, actually, it said that you can it actually mapped out all the gullies that we could enter and got closest, and the time was 50 minutes, whereas we had said 30 minutes, and we said no, but 30 minutes, it said there is no other way based on available data. But a human mind, okay, now here's what we did, and this is the most interesting part. There is somebody who lives in the fisherman colony, which is near Carter Road, whose son is a housekeeping staff in my office, and he was listening. We're having fun with him also. तो he said, इतना क्या ये, आप एक काम करो, आप गाड़ी से निकलो, अब you get out of your car, there is a small fishing village on the edge of the road. You just give 500 rupees to one fisherman. He will make you sit in his boat and take you on Marine Drive. You probably reach in 20 minutes, because literally there is a you can go from Carter Road to Marine Drive. This is one fisherman's son saying, okay. Now I'm not getting into the laws of traveling in the ocean and all that. What I'm trying to tell you is, the human mind will not be, so the chat gpt is limited, or the AI is limited by saying you have to go by car, you have to take the road. But the human mind is saying there's no limitation. Nah, I need to reach Marine Drive in 30 minutes. Okay, if I have to go storytell and charm a fisherman to make me sit in his boat and take him, I'll do it. And that's the spirit that is going to have the maximum premium at the workplace.
Mm. But I still think, I think a lot of uh, a lot of people are misunderstanding what artificial intelligence does, in my honest
Hmm.
opinion. I think it's a supplementation of people. Even to use artificial intelligence efficiently, you need to have high skills. You just can't use it otherwise.
Of
The
course.
baseline intelligence required to even um, um, is not is not ordinary. Even to use any efficient AI tool, you need some level of some level of base principles cleared.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just can't do it. But I don't know why people are so worried about it at the same time. Like for me, uh, in a country, like I'll give you in my field, right? Textiles. I mean, I was a
Yeah.
textile entrepreneur for a good 2 decades.
Yeah.
आई कैन अश्योर यू अभी लोग बोलेंगे 3D प्रिंटिंग होगी, ये होगा, वो होगा। आप कुछ भी कर लो, कितना भी
Hmm.
ट्राई, जो करना है कर लो। um, and um, आप टेक्सटाइल को कैसे ऑटोमेटेड करोगे? You know, the biggest struggle I had for 20 years was how do I
Hmm.
automate textiles? Because we were not getting workers. The supply chain of workers required to do a lot of hard labor was just
Hmm.
shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Barely anybody wanted to get into textiles.
Hmm.
And at the same time, the technology, the pace at which, and I'm not talking about Indian manufacturing, I'm
Hmm.
talking about the top of the line European and American manufacturers who make textile machinery. Even
mm,
they, for example, there is a machine called a stenter where it's like a fabric drying machine where the width of the fabric and the fabric is dried and finished.
mm,
और उसकी width set होती है. That
mm,
machine originally used to take 6 to 8 people to run. It still
mm,
needs 4 to 5 people to run in 100 years
mm,
of people working on that machine consistently all the time. You
mm.
just can't reduce workers. So, I mean, what is the AI going to do? I mean, I don't understand.
See, I mean, so here's, if the out of the park answer is that they are also reinventing textile that can be made very differently, where the process of manufacturing is far more sustainable, far less water consuming, and maybe those are going to be automated from day one, right? So, and at the same time, I'm not here to argue to your position that the textile industry that you speak of has scope for human employment. I think we have to delink the problem. One is a quantitative problem, and second is a qualitative problem. Unfortunately, the quantitative truth is those. Now, I'm going to come into a very dangerous area. Right? Elon Musk has also said this, that human intelligence also has an aspect of, unfortunately, DNA, social conditioning, religious conditioning, regional conditioning. So, our intelligence has its foundation in these factors which are
अरे ये सब
outside.
छोड़ दे 50% of human behavior is determined by genes. 50%
Correct.
of intelligence is inherited.
Correct. And
50% of it.
so unfortunately, there will be a class of people whose genetic disposition, their social conditioning, their mental conditioning, and so on, will not allow them to be able to upskill themselves for the level of intellect and ability required to operate alongside and thrive alongside an AI. So the quantitative problem is unsolvable by upskilling. It will have to be solved by what is now already being spoken about, which is universal basic income, which is saying that, boss, if you can't participate in the new economy, no problem. You take your basic requirements and you are live separately and be happy. The qualitative problem which can be solved is that those who have the innate ability and the inherent motivation to upgrade their intellect, they have to learn these skills that I said and probably more. Because you're right, even if I have to make an AI work for me or work with an AI, I need to be of a certain level of intelligence to be able. It's like two intelligent minds can work together. One intelligent mind and one stupid mind cannot work together in the human context. Same with AI and humans. AI is quite superior. So if I have to sit alongside an AI, I have to be equally or more superior. There is scope there. So, firstly, I don't think we can make a very general statement saying we should not be worried about AI or we should be worried about AI. It's about who should not worry about AI, what you need to do to not worry about AI. And yes,
Exactly.
there will be a sect of people who will have to worry about AI, and that is that.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the crux of the issue. Where
Yeah,
are you placed? What industries need to be worried about? Like if
correct,
you are a textile person, you should be worried about humans, not
correct.
AI.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
humans
yeah,
नहीं मिल रहे हमको.
correct, right.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that's the
correct.
problem.
And also, therefore, a very important thing, because I'm assuming many of your audience would be parents or would be or
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
will be parents in the future. You need to think about today what industry or what domain or what sector your child is preparing for, or what you would nudge your child to prepare towards. For
Hmm.
example, I think that, you know, don't bother sending them to learn how to code and think that itself will be their key to success, because as the founder of Nvidia said very clearly, that AI will code itself. But to imagine a product, to imagine a software, and then convey that imagination in a way that the AI understands for it to code and build itself, is where the new skill will be, which is basically contextualized creative communication. So it is very important for current parents or aspiring parents to look into 10, 20 years ahead, not 5 years, 10 years behind, and what created success then, and then nudge your child to take that, not sector, I repeat, but ability or set of skills. Because sectors also, now people will be able to move between sectors. So, for example, Google ka HR head Lisa said, global Google head Lisa says that we need smart generalists, not just specialists, smart generalists with specialization. Because generalists will have the ability to move between different departments and different functions because they have these core skills. So it's very important for current parents and aspiring parents to think about what abilities are we going to nudge our child to develop, and a big set and a big chunk of those abilities have to be enhancing lateral intellectual abilities, not just linear functions. Linear functions, which are largely logical and numeric, will be automated, but lateral functions, which is basically the ability to operate in abstract, and lateral people just say, oh, art, it's like art versus science. No, it's not like that. There is laterality and imagination in science also. So you have to develop the ability to imagine, to be able to create an uncertainty. That is the lateral ability that you need to enhance of your child.
So give me a few examples
Hmm.
of this. Let's say somebody who's a 20 or something, because I think around 24 to 25% of this podcast's listener
Hmm.
base, cutting
Hmm.
across platforms, whether on YouTube, Spotify, etc.,
Hmm.
etc., etc., are going to be
Hmm.
young children. And
Hmm.
but the giant chunk which should be really worried about the AI is
Hmm.
my biggest listener base, which is actually 25 to 60. These people are like the overwhelming listener base, especially till the age group of 54.
Yeah.
They are like a good 50% plus. So people
Yeah.
who are earning and that kind of a listener base. So what
Hmm.
are these lateral skills? And what if you are an introvert? What if you are just, autistic, and you are on the spectrum and you are very good in math? What do you do then?
I mean, look, autism itself is not a disqualifier. In fact, some of the most intelligent people I've met and truly intelligent people I've met come with some form of learning disability. So we will not declassify or classify people based on a particular disability, because I believe one disability gives you two other abilities. So, however, having said that, the lateral skills that you really need to enhance for yourself or for your child, number one, the ability to, let me put it this way, fictional writing. Okay. Why fictional writing? Because if you're able to imagine, if you're able to create a Harry Potter type world by yourself, which has no base in reality, you'll be able to add that little flair when you write about or communicate about something that's real, right? Which is why I said storytelling and not communication. So, fictional writing, if you can, or creative writing is also known as, if that is something that you can polish, it will go a very long way. Second, which is very important, is to be able to think very critically and ask very nuanced questions. So this is also a skill. Critical thinking is classified as a skill, because that is again something that an AI will not be able to do. It will be, because AI is reactive, it is responsive, it is not proactive. But we humans can, in the context of our agendas, motivations, and overall perception of what's happening, can proactively ask the right questions that can help you form a business relationship, negotiate a deal better, and so on. So, critical thinking. Then I think what really needs to be enhanced is the ability to think in first principles. So, first principles basically is also again a technique often popularized by Elon Musk, which is saying that you break down any fact to its fundamental logic and reimagine it from scratch. So, for example, this came as to why Elon Musk was able to build a rocket that even NASA scientists, highly qualified scientists, were not able to, because they were conditioned by the knowledge they already had. Whereas he basically used basic common sense to say this is what a rocket would have, and I'm going to pick the parts that matter the most and reimagine it to build a more efficient, fuel efficient, cost efficient rocket, because I'm not bound by the knowledge I already have. So, first principles thinking, that is breaking things down to their fundamental truths and then reimagining creation of that from those fundamentals. That is something that is very, very so. First principles thinking, creative writing, critical thinking. Also, and you've heard this, but I'm going to give a very different take to it, emotional intelligence. Now, my problem is, when you say emotional intelligence, often people say empathy, because robots will not have empathy. But empathy बेच के आप ताज में रूम नाइट्स नहीं खरीद सकते हो. Empathy बेच के you cannot do. Empathy is not going to get you money. Empathy is not going to get you your vacations. Emotional intelligence is essentially the ability to understand your emotions, understand the other person's emotions, and then leverage it tactfully to achieve what you want, which means anger can also be leveraged. Either you are angry or somebody else is angry, and you can then tactfully leverage it to get them to do what you want. Sometimes empathy, in addition to some other emotions, can also be leveraged. But the wisdom to use and understand emotions,
Mm.
also a very, very important skill. And it is, I'm saying something very bluntly, but man is an emotional being, and the emotions are the code to hack a man. And if you can hack emotions, you can hack people. And I think our current political environment is an example of that.
So what do you make of Elon Musk and all the developments he's making in those things like Neuralink and stuff like that, where basically uh, the thought will happen before um, uh, uh, before you actually are doing anything. I mean, it would be a great tool for physically disabled people who maybe cannot do X or Y, and Neuralink is this, kind of installed in their brain, and they can do a lot of functions that many people were not in that scenario being able to do. But it also gives the chip an dangerous insight into the human mind and the
So I'll
human.
tell you something funny, and then I'll answer your question seriously. So I was sitting with a bunch of techno geeks working for a unicorn, which can get you your groceries in 5 to 7 minutes, right? And we were talking about the application of Neuralink. So this guy says that it is very probable in the future, in 5 years, not even 50, where you have a Neuralink in your brain. Now your stomach has given a code or a message to your brain that it's hungry. Your tongue probably recalls a taste, fantastic taste that it had. So hunger plus that recall of taste will tell the brain, oh, this is what I want. Then that brain, because the chip is in the brain, has already knows what you want. Now it has placed the order for you, and a drone is going to deliver it. So before you have processed what you want, a drone is going to deliver to you what you want. Okay. And that's actually, if you think about it, not an impossible future the moment the chip enters the brain.
I
So
I can only
मतलब मैंने
imagine how
सोचा
many
वो
fat people will be made in this world.
again, manifestation to another level. Okay. But so on one side, people like Elon Musk are a hero to me as any startup founder, because the ability to create something that is so out of the park when it comes to the breaking the boundaries of imagination. I think I give him, I learn a lot from him when it comes to his guts or that of Steve Jobs. But if you look at what Steve Jobs created, which is the iPhone, and if you look at what Elon Musk is talking about with the Neuralink, it's breaking that boundary that separated man and technology. And because technology is far more powerful, especially when it comes to the average human who may not have so much self control and self awareness, you've broken that boundary. And that, I think, is an act of evil, if evil exists. And I have a very staunch and strong view about this. In fact, I will just jump 2 steps ahead. And if you look at all the top unicorns in the world, they are essentially a product of the seven that represent the seven sins. So greed is e-commerce. Your food delivery apps is gluttony. Your content apps also represent lust, and you can do the rest. So my problem is that you have broken that boundary that protected beings. Now you put a bloody chip in the brain. I mean, that's like it's wow as technology, but it's satanic and evil when it comes to the nature of the act itself. And I say it without any fear.
Yeah, but you can always voluntarily choose not to play the game, right? Nobody
No,
forces you to use any
but
of
then you have to do, then that's when Sadguru will become more powerful, because people will have to do a lot more yoga to have that self awareness and self control, and a lot
it.
more meditation, right?
सबका घर चलेगा.
Correct. So, to have that, I mean, come on, Kushal, like how many times you and I have gone for meals and हमको एक और चीज खानी है क्योंकि बस मन को भा गया. मतलब
Mm.
हमने हमने तो काफी ढाबे में खाया है साथ में, तो बस खाने की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन अच्छा दिख रहा है, we are tempted to, we are eating it, to self control नहीं है ना. And now imagine now the chip is saying, boss तुम बस सोचो और तुम्हारे सामने आ गया, तो कितने लोग ना बोलेंगे उसको.
These are
And
problems, but
one more thing very interesting, I must add. Sorry, why do you see that suddenly there is so much of excessive consumption of marijuana? and therefore consequent legalization. Because imagine this toxic combination of marijuana, which has its benefits, medicinal benefits. I am not denying that. But now you give youth who don't have access to jobs marijuana. Then you give them access to content that keeps them engaged. Then you put a chip in their brain that is going to be useless. He wants to be stoned, and the chip also will make him see content right in his from the lens of his eye. Doesn't need a the headset also. So what are you doing to humanity? You're making us. पहले होता था ना, राजा राजा प्रजा को हफीम देता था to keep them sedated so nobody opposes. ये वही हो रहा है. अब राजा नहीं दे रहा. It's probably like, it's just happening. I don't want to conspire and say there's a deep state and all of that, but it's happening, and that's very dangerous. And it's not going to stop. It cannot be stopped. And I would like to bring in the next aspect, policy. It is very surprising to me that politicians, whether it is India, whether it is overseas, across party lines, are just, I repeat, Atiti Devo Bhava to automation without thinking कि तो तुम्हारे घर में उसका क्या होने वाला है.
Okay, so let's talk policy now. So, what do you think? Where do we go with this as far as policy is concerned? Are
See,
you worried from a policy perspective, or what policies should we look at?
so I'm going to answer the question in a slightly more bolder way. If I were the prime minister of X country today, doesn't matter which country, I would form legislations that would heavily regulate applications of AI, and not just monitoring it, but deciding where it can be applied. So I would, for example, apply it in sectors like we were talking that are capital intensive but are not labor creation. So I would, for example, put it in certain manufacturing sectors where in any case they are not big employers of labor, or where labor can do better. Therefore, my answer is I would heavily regulate and control automation and not allow it with open arms. And I would especially keep it out of reach of social media platforms, because AI plus the already mentally weak population, you are going to trap the youth of the nation, the fictitious nation I'm talking about, of whose I am prime minister right now. You are going to keep that youth trapped and make them more and more incompetent. I literally have a 15-year-old intern in my office, a girl. She debated me, and she's a very smart girl. She's like, why do we need to work? I mean, that question makes no sense. And where is this coming from? This is coming from the comfort that the mobile is giving you, that you don't need to move, you don't need to take effort, everything is done for you.
Well, good. If the kid doesn't want to work, let the kid stay home.
And, and not coming from a rich background, and not like, we're not talking about somebody with prince privileges.
Hmm. All right. So now before we wrap up, well, let's talk about what kind of work your company is doing. So tell everybody about that now.
So what we at Workverse do essentially is a summary of the last 60 minutes. My mission here is I want to help upgrade human intelligence so that my learners can thrive alongside artificial intelligence. So what we do is, through role playing simulation, we put you in workplace scenarios, and we teach you these skills that I just spoke about by doing. So as a student in a college or an entry level employee of a company, you you basically are put in 100 plus scenarios, like pitch to a client, solve a crisis. You have to go and patao Mr. Adani, who's a fictional investor in the virtual world of work that we have created. You have to go and patao Mr. Adani. You have to solve a problem with an income tax commissioner. All of those things that we create that you actually have to do in work, and we teach you these skills by doing that, and then we assess you while you do it, and then create something called a workplace intelligence profile, which is a behavioral data and your data on your proficiency on these soft skills, based on observation over how you performed in the simulation for 40 hours, and then we help you get job access. So essentially, we are teaching soft skills, cognitive skills, behavioral skills, which are all grouped as, I call them, automation proof skills, to college graduates.
And uh, so basically, like your website says, I just opened it. I did not know about it. So you guys say pay only after placement support, or stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, what does that mean?
I mean, so for us, that comes from the space of, there are a lot of famous edtech unicorns that raise more money than India's education budget. They really scammed the learners. So We are here with a we're a company for profit, but profit with purpose. So this idea is basically saying that, you learn from us, but only if you see outcomes do you pay us. So people learn in our simulation and our simulated workplace experience, and then they get placed, and then we take money both from the employer who's also looking for quality talent, and money from the student, of course.
Okay, fair enough. So basically, it is uh, what from what I have understood in this entire model that we see today is that if you are belonging to a certain class of skills, not
Yeah,
society, not in terms of hierarchical placement in a culture, but in terms
yeah.
of a skill. So it's very interesting. Chandrababu Naidu recently had said that India does not need a caste census; it needs a skill census. So, what did you
Hmm.
make of that? You would agree with that, right? A census of what kind of skills people have and what kind of skills we need to plug into, right? That's what Chandrababu Naidu said.
Yeah, we need a census, but we also need to then map the skill census against the industry skill census, because one is what you have, but the other is what people need, and then you can see where the gap is, and then strategize to fill it.
So if you don't mind me asking you, because see, you work with all corporate houses. I know
Hmm.
you for a while. So what is corporate India looking for right now? Like what exactly do they look for?
I mean, one word is smart people. Second word is people who can use common sense. This is the two things that I listen to in every meeting that I have. Then comes AI, then comes graphic design, then comes all of that. Let me give you an example, okay? So one of our clients is a production studio, and they fired an editor, a young boy. And I said, why did you fire him? Because we had to find his replacement. And he says, one of the assignments given to us was we had to make a video on one of our client company's founders because they're raising a big round of money. And this guy took 2 weeks, and all he did was put together pictures and excerpts of news articles about this founder, whereas there were hundreds of videos, and there were hundreds of very powerful quotes in those videos that could be mashed together to make a great video. But what this very not so smart gentleman did is he basically ran Chat GPT through all the articles, and Chat GPT picked the articles and chose what quotes to give, and he literally created a mash of that. Because to put the videos together, he would have to take the not only the physical effort and the time effort of listening to the videos, he would have to start thinking about which segments to pick and place together, which is something an AI would not do, because AI would not understand the context of why this video is being made, what do we want to project the founder as, and so on. In 2 weeks, he just literally got fired. Why? So he was technically very competent. He was a good editor when it came to using software, but he didn't want to use his intelligence to think of a more innovative way of projecting the founder, and also therefore put in the effort to do so. So the summary is smart people with common sense. You give an employer that with reasonable technical competence based on the level of hire, employer is very happy. But वही तो नहीं मिल रहा है, और वही तो मेरा धंधा है.
So it's very interesting. You talk about editing. It's one of the
Hmm.
biggest fears I have, but
Hmm.
at least in my case, this is very little. Is
Hmm.
because whenever I record chats, I do
Hmm.
live streams most of the
Hmm.
time, and they are unedited. I don't edit them.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm being very open. This is how most of the podcasting industry is run in India. It is run on the most unethical parameters that I can ever imagine a
Hmm.
podcasting industry can be run on. So what
Hmm.
happens in podcasting in India is all
Hmm.
giant podcasters do not read anything.
Hmm.
They don't know anything. They have a team of people who tell them
Hmm.
तुमको 10 मिनट का पेज का राइटअप बना के
Hmm.
देंगे और तुमने जाकर वो पढ़ना है और उनको प्रॉम्प्ट्स दिए जाते हैं। उनको कुछ पता नहीं होता है एक सब्जेक्ट के बारे
Hmm.
में। इट्स अ
Hmm.
सीरियस
Hmm.
कंसर्न आई हैव विद व्हिच इज़ व्हाई पॉडकास्टिंग इन जनरल इन इंडिया इट्स एक्चुअली आफ्टर लिसनिंग टू इट यू टेंड टू लूज़ योर आईक्यू पॉइंट्स, यू डोंट गेन
Yeah.
एनीथिंग। इट
Hmm.
इज़ दैट बैड इंडियन पॉडकास्टिंग बिकॉज़
Hmm.
द होस्ट डज़न्ट नो एनीथिंग। होस्ट कोई हार्ड वर्क नहीं कर रहा, एक्सेप्शंस अप्लाई, बट जनरल पॉडकास्टिंग इन इंडिया इज़ रियली स्टूपिड।
I'm just sorry
अनलाइक
to add. Just want to add, Indian podcasters have become influencers. What happened at Cannes, I don't know if you saw that. That was an absolute insult,
हुँ,
So I
मैंने
must tell
देखा।
you this. I must tell you this, and why I like you and respect you so much. So you have these set of podcasters who are very famous. We're not going to name anybody, but I think your listeners will know who I'm talking about. Not one, but many. Some media house paid them money to go to Cannes, which is a carpet where names like George Clooney have walked, Amitabh Bachchan has walked, Aishwarya Rai has walked. You know, accomplished, legit people who worked for 20, 30, 40 years, built good cinema. They have walked the Cannes carpet. And now you have these podcasters who have been styled by some company, who have been sponsored by another company. They walk the ramp and you look back and what have they done? Nothing. They are just dressed better than you, Kushal. They look hotter than you, Kushal, because they have
That
all
I
these
agree
they
with.
have all these
I
amps,
give it to them.
and then that's why they are there. But you look at the quality of their content, and you're like, boss, I'd rather watch a Govinda film, which, by the way, teaches more about life than what you
बॉस
listen
गोविंदा
to.
इज अ हार्ड वर्किंग गाय, क्या
Sure.
एफर्ट करता था अपनी एक एक सीन के
Yeah,
पीछे। आप जिन्होंने गोविंदा के साथ काम किया उसको जाके पूछो
correct.
कैसी उसकी प्रिपरेशन होती थी एक एक के। सो दैट्स
Yeah,
माय पॉइंट, व्हेन यू
yeah,
सेड दिस एडिटिंग बिट, सो व्हाई
yeah,
इवन टुडे
yeah.
if I do a book discussion which is
Hmm.
pre-recorded,
Hmm.
I make sure that that video is edited by me. I don't
Hmm.
let it edited by anyone else,
Correct.
because I will not trust anyone to do
Hmm.
justice, is because मेरे दिमाग में जो मैं सोच रहा हूँ ना, I know the other
Hmm.
person is not going to think about it. So uh, I I have seen how Indian podcasting is done. Uh, Literally, the camera angle is decided so that the host can ask better sounding questions later on while the guest has already spoken, listening to something else. This is the
Hmm.
kind of shit that happens in Indian podcasting, man. This is not, I can guarantee you, this does not happen with Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, on any mainstream western podcasting. It
Hmm.
doesn't happen here. ये हो रहा है हमारे देश में क्योंकि हमने बेसिकली बांदरों को
Hmm.
एक दे दिया है और वो बांदर सिर्फ क्लिक्स के लिए जा रहे हैं। तो ये लोग क्या करते हैं मालूम है, और यूट्यूब में एक रिसर्च का टैब होता है
Hmm.
जिसको अभी रिसर्च से चेंज करके उन्होंने एक नया वर्ड यूट्यूब ने कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स के लिए एक बहुत बहुत फैंसी श्मैंसी वर्ड कर दिया अभी। अभी वो रिसर्च टैब को बोलते हैं इंस्पिरेशन।
सॉरी टू से, बट ये सी बनाने का धंधा है.
हाँ 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 यार,
Hmm.
बेसिकली क्या होता है ना, ये हैशटैग्स में हाई सर्च
Hmm.
आते हैं, ठीक है।
Hmm. Hmm.
ये बताता है तुम करो क्या, तुम्हारा पूरा डिस्कशन है ना उसके अराउंड ये मतलब हर आदमी है ना, हर 5 मिनट के बाद आप यूथ को क्या मैसेज देना चाहते हैं? अबे कुछ नहीं देना चाहता हो यार, चुपचाप काम करो या घर पे बैठे रहो यार तुम लोग। क्या है,
Correct.
यूथ को क्या मैसेज देना चाहते हो? हर आदमी यही कर रहा है, ये ऐसा नींबू निचोड़ा जा रहा है ना इस चीज का।
Hmm.
एंड
Hmm.
आई कुड, व्हेन यू आर सेइंग राइट कि वो बच्चे की जॉब चली गई, क्योंकि कारण है उसका, मैं तुझे कारण बता रहा हूँ, क्योंकि वो बच्चे का
Hmm.
दिमाग नहीं चल रहा था।
हाँ.
क्योंकि उसको एक्चुअल में द किड डिड नॉट नो
Hmm.
what a product should come out as, is because you need original ideas to create
Correct.
something. If you, like today when I do a monologue, I
Hmm.
think I'm one of the few Indian podcasters who in like 800 or 700 episodes has like more than 100 monologues, and that
Yeah.
too I go live, I prepare, I show links and stuff like that. There's so much preparation that goes into these things. But what
Yeah.
is happening today is we have confused reading of a teleprompter where the script is written to you by someone else who is researching for you for a base level job, who now
Hmm.
has already started using Chat GPT to give you speech.
Correct.
And you are creating content based on that. Like even in this Lok Sabha election, there was a research report that was out how chatbots and Chat GPT was weaponized uh, in campaign. But eventually what happens is it's not going to pay you dividends in the long run, is
Yeah.
while it might work. Which is why, there are so many, you talked about first principles. I always tell people, just because Bill Gates or X or Y या कोई भी ऐसा so called billionaire जिनके बारे में तुमने इंटरनेट पे सुन लिया होगा, is a high school dropout और वो नहीं
Hmm.
गया, इसका मतलब नहीं है बेवकूफ जय तू हो जाने वाला है. Most billionaires actually go to excellent schools, have privilege, leverage those schools and the connections of their schools. So if you want to be a billionaire, your probabilities of being a billionaire are if you go to all these good places, not you escape and you become a high school
No, so
dropout or
there's a
something of
nuance there,
that
right?
sort.
There's a nuance there. So I agree. I don't encourage everybody to drop out. But Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Steve Jobs dropped out because they had a purpose, they had an ability,
Yeah.
and they had a mission to pursue, which the college was not allowing them to. And the
Hmm.
rich people who, I mean, the billionaires who went to college is because they used the college to also network, to and hone their people skills, to hone their life skills, and not just they were good students. I just want to clarify that. So it is not about going to school or not. It is not about getting good marks or not. It is about knowing what you want and developing what you need to get there, whether it's college or whether it's outside. That's what matters.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question a live viewer has asked. How does a PMP in their 40s recently diagnosed with ADHD deal with the changes, and what would be a way forward? Well, that's a very specific question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this
PMP,
person lives in Canada.
PMP, can you clarify for me?
I don't know what a PMP is, man.
I'm just
But
going to take the liberty to turn my phone on and Google it because I would like to answer this gentleman's question. And if you're listening, then please clarify what PMP means. While also PMP, he said having a PMP, right?
so how does a PMP in their 40s? I don't know what a PMP means, man.
Maybe it's some kind of project management professional. Come on, we should have
Okay.
used the intelligence, Kushal. मुझे भी
भाई
इंटेलेक्ट
देखो, मैंने देखो कोई प्रोजेक्ट नहीं किया मेरी लाइफ में। मैंने फैक्ट्री चलाई, उसके बाद मैंने पॉडकास्ट चलाई, तो आई एम अलाउड टू बी
So this is a
ignorant about
project
these things.
only. So good question. So let's break down PMP and ADHD. First, let's talk about project management, right? So there are two aspects of project management. One is, of course, using the softwares to plan the workflow, to plan the collaboration links and so on. The other is the using Jugaad to solve problems during the project which may come across, which may not be prescribed solutions or acceptable solutions by prescriptions of process. Developing the storytelling ability to cajole people who are part of your project flow to complete what they have to in time or before time, or deal with the issues that they may come up with or any conflicts they come up with. Apply an entrepreneurial mindset to see how can you maximize the output from the resources invested for your project. Intuitive decision making again is going to help you in crisis because every project has a crisis. So if you see, project management has a layer of human ability that will always be irreplaceable. So what you need to do is not limit yourself to the processes of project management that you've learned. That's one part. But you now need to hone these human skills and develop these human skills to add to your project management abilities. That's the one part. ADHD, while I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to talk about how you can solve for that. I actually see ADHD as, from what I understand of it in a very non-clinical way, I'm looking at it more from a behavioral standpoint, as an advantage because you also have the ability to think of multiple thoughts and switch between them. So I think you have to add a discipline that, okay, if I switch between thoughts, the discipline to complete a thought, to complete a task, and then switch. So you'll have to add that discipline because a aspect of ADHD is the ability to juggle between multiple thoughts and multiple temptations of information, which if you hone and contain can actually be an advantage to focus on multiple things at the same time or think about multiple things within a span, and but then the discipline to go deeper and having some conclusion of that thought and only then leaving that thought to move on to the next.
Yeah, I to me, right, like, eventually people need to, I think diet can help you many ways, because now enough studies have shown how gut bacteria and your mental health are actually kind of interrelated and interconnected.
Yeah.
So maintaining your gut health, if you can maintain your gut health, I think your mental health and a lot of things, look, some things are just genetic and some people just get a bad deal.
Yeah.
Um, and you can't do anything about it. But we are going to be going in such an interesting time in the future, is that people with above average bhi nahi main bolunga, bare minimum skills and above, are actually going to cut through the race if they are able to learn skills every 5 years. um, and I'm actually very bullish on the future of India, especially. I'm actually very bullish on India's future. But
Mhm.
yes, and if you are like in the Western world, if you can learn, like, hardcore skills like plumbing, and I've noticed, boy, either अगर तुमने ये सब चीजें सीख ली ना, हार्ड लेबर की चीजें, एंड यू आर
Hmm.
गुड एट इट, यू कैन मेक गुड मनी ओवर हियर यार. You can make actual good money.
I
But I
think
don't know
that
why it's looked down upon.
no, that is again, cultural contexts are different, and also availability of plumbers is more here than there. तो वहां पे तो people have to wait 2 weeks for a plumber to come sometimes. यहाँ पे तो 2 minute में आ जाता है. तो it's also a function of unit economics and availability. But I think something that as one of the concluding thoughts is people need to first imagine their purpose of work. I think one big problem with this work life balance narrative is work has been made into a chore, something that you don't need to do but you have to do, so limit how much you do. And I think that's also, so my next article for Inc. 42 is going to be themed on how work life balance is actually opening the gates for automation to enter our lives and workplaces. Because capitalists will any day prefer a bot that can work 24/7, not ask for leaves, not ask for balance, versus a human. Like I recently interviewed a creative writer, brilliant person, but her condition to me was that she wants to leave office every day at 5 o'clock because she wants to go take care of her cats by 5:30. And due respect to pets and all of that. But now which boss is going to say yes to let you go at 5? You also want equal pay and incremental pay, which you should deserve because you're a talented writer, but you want to go at 5:30 to feed your cats. And right now it's 9 p.m. and I'm talking to you and I have 2 more hours to go. And I have 10 people sitting outside as well. Right. So, like, I mean, it comes down to purpose of work. So I think we need to go back to what our old Indian or Bharatiya value system was, that work is a sacred function. Work is sacred because not only it puts food on your table, it gives occupation, gainful occupation to the mind. It keeps your mind constructive. It helps you play your role in pushing humanity and creation forward, right? So I think one solution to also upskilling is first defining your purpose of working. And it has to be more than money. It has to be beyond money. Yes, money is required. A money also wants money and a peon also wants money. So there is no question there. But apart from money, so I'll give a very simple example. Okay. So once we had a Zomato delivery boy come, and for whatever reason, that guy was very happy. And he was like delivering with grace and love. मालूम पड़ रहा था, मतलब छलक रहा था प्यार. मैंने बोला यार तू बड़ा खुश है. Because usually delivery boys are very, very frustrated, running around. He's like, sir, अब मैं क्या करूं? मैंने अपने आप को, and the guy is I think 22, like मैंने अपने आप को एक कहानी बता दी है कि मेरे जीवन का कर्म भूखे लोग को उनका मनपसंद खाना दिलाना है. My life purpose is to give hungry people their favorite food.
Beautiful.
And that's
Beautiful.
what I'm doing. Right? And now he has added that joy to an otherwise very menial task.
Mm.
And then,
Beautiful.
I mean, I obviously tipped him, and I don't think he expects the tips, but I tipped him, but he got a tip. He earned more money that day. In fact, I paid him half of what my food price was. So, what I'm trying to say is that a big solution is, what is the purpose, right? A purpose is a story you create for yourself. You don't need to go ask God why you sent me. You tell yourself why you want to be here. And then slowly you program your mind to start believing that as your reality and adding that to why you work.
Fair enough. One last question before we wrap up. Why does India still lack in high quality training data? And why is the government not investing in computing infrastructure, and research funding seems to be very low? Do you know any reason?
So we'll break it down. Research requires risks. Research starts with a point of uncertainty and not knowing, right? That's why you are researching. And we as Indians, for whatever reason, in this, I mean, it's not actually we as Indians. Let me take that back. We as Indian policy makers, and this
Hmm.
has been happening since the first government. So it's not about any particular party. We don't want to take that risk कि boss research के लिए we gave $1 million, but what if nothing is found at the end of the research?
Hmm.
Then that money goes waste. What will we answer to our babu above?
It's a
Whereas in the
scarcity
West,
mindset.
it's a scarcity mindset, it's a fear mindset, right? So therefore you don't want to allocate money to find out something that you don't know what you'll find out and you don't know what you'll do with it. So that's number one. Infrastructure. So I would disagree to the one part of the question, because I travel to a lot of tier 2, tier 3 towns as well, and infrastructure is greatly improving. Training infrastructure is greatly improving, and you have to give it to the system and give it to this last 10 years. You have to give that much. We may have whatever grievances we may have, But in this one particular thing, infrastructure as a whole and training infrastructure in
The
particular,
government has done fantastic work
it's
there.
fantastic work. But I will not denounce the question. Problem is that you have created a fancy room, but you also put a very dumb person inside the training. Sorry to put it so bluntly. So you have built fancy rooms, you put like high tech, LED screens and all that, but the person teaching has not been upskilled.
Who's
So
going to
therefore,
train the trainer?
you need to train the trainer, because the trainer is only not intelligent, for lack of a better word, then your student is also going to be limited in intelligence. So that's the problem which I see in training infrastructure. It's not the physical, it's the more intellectual resources that you are giving. What was the first part of the question? I'm going backwards.
Yeah, the first part was high quality training data.
I mean, if he means something like a skill consensus, or how many people do we have trained? I mean, in fact, there is not even proper data on how many people are enrolled in the college education system in the country, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was creating a pitch deck for my next fundraise, and we wanted to show how many people are in college today in the country. We couldn't find one particular data source. So I think data itself in this country is very skewed, and I'm again not going to come from a point of view of somebody deliberately doing or not doing. It is very complex, right? There's so many perspectives, so many nuances. Somebody is enrolled in college but has never stepped foot after enrollment cannot be considered as a person, who's theoretically enrolled but not practically enrolled. So there are many factors of why data is not consistent and congruent in India. But that's where AI will help. Probably it can compute things and find more patterns and create more predictive models looking at past patterns. So all that you can have AI to assist humans. Hopefully, it will happen.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with you. See, as far as the overall scenario is concerned, right? I always say this: the story of humanity is always adjusting to the to your surroundings, and
Yeah,
beyond a point, you people who are hustlers, right? Hustlers always hustle. They always
yeah.
find a way out, and you have to find a way out. Yes, the government needs to be an enabler in many of these things, but sometimes I feel the government also becomes a roadblock. It's
Yeah.
better for the government to get out of the way. But hey,
I want to give you an example, a funny example of this. Sorry, I'm going to take 30 seconds just, and I'm not going to get into which department, which whatever. So I met a very senior bureaucrat who loved what I do. And then he got a junior guy to talk to me saying, now let's talk about execution. So he said, yes, Samyak ji is doing great work. Soft skills has to be taken to the masses. He tells this person to do work. Okay. So, and that guy had not sat in the meeting. So I repeat my whole speech again. In the end, Kushal, what he says, I kid you not. Okay, and this is a OHD level guy picked up from lateral hire, corporate hire. His question to me is, can we teach welding along with these soft skills? Why? Because he had money to spend in welding skills and his mind was focused on welding. Tick mark. Like welding करा सकते हैं क्या?
उसको गवर्नमेंट का फंडिंग और जो भी है ना, वो गवर्नमेंट का एक फ्रेमवर्क होता है. सी आई हैव वर्कड सो मच इन दिस
Yeah, yeah. Because you said
सरकारी
roadblock, I
फ्रेमवर्क.
get to your point that
या
uh,
सो वो बोलेगा कि यहाँ पे मैं तेरे को पैसा दे सकता हूँ, यहाँ पे ले ले. यहाँ पे मैं तेरे
correct.
को पैसा दे सकता हूँ, यहाँ पे ले
बट
ले.
वो वेल्डिंग अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो वेल्डिंग सीखने आ रहा है, मैं उसको अभी फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग सिखा के क्या करूंगा बेचारा, वो मतलब कहाँ यूज करेगा फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग.
Hmm.
सो
Yeah, but
एनीवेज जस्ट वांटेड टू
yeah,
ऐड टू
but
योर पॉइंट.
I think as long as you're a hustler, you should be fine. I always encourage people to do one thing every day. Try to read for half an hour to 45 minutes, at least an hour, and stay abreast with what's happening around you. If you are
या
going to do that, then
या
I think you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You should be alert. I think
या
अगर आपको आपके सराउंडिंग्स के बारे में चीजें मालूम होगी तो आपको
या
पता रहेगा.
या
एंड never try to let any utopianists, where there are libertarian utopianists who say the government is the problem, and then there are socialists who want government in everything. I think both are problematic. See, always be wary of ideologues, people who are married to an idea till the extent that they will do anything to make sure that idea succeeds.
या
As long as you're a flexible person and you dabble with all kinds of ideas and ideologies, I think you will be fine and the world will be fine. But Samyak, um, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast again. Hopefully, when I'm back in Mumbai, we'll catch up again. And till then, best of luck, buddy.
थैंक यू फॉर हैविंग मी.
So guys, you can follow. Samyak, तू ट्विटर पे नहीं है?
मैं इंस्टाग्राम पे हूँ, सम्यक_चक्रवर्ती.
Okay, yeah. So I've put our Instagram handle in the description, and I've also added the Workverse website link in the description of the podcast. So anybody who, even if you're listening to the audio version of it, go check. Go follow Samyak on Instagram and go check his workout on workverse.in. That is WORKVERSE.in. As far as I'm concerned, you guys know the drill. You can become a member of the Cārvāka podcast. This podcast is a member driven only podcast. So if you want to join the membership program, you have Patreon, YouTube, Fanmo, whatever option you want to take. If you want to send your donations, you can use donations platform through UPI. And through there, you can buy the merchandise on my website. You can also buy my book, Nastic Why I'm Not an Atheist. If you are in and around the greater Toronto region, on the 15th of June in Mississauga, we have the first North American event of my book. If you can't do anything, just like this video, subscribe, leave a comment, and if you are an audio listener, leave a rating on your audio platform. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, namaste, take care, bye bye.